Hello and welcome to 2024 Ascension Energies Mastery, Episode 3, which we are going to be talking quite a bit about personal power. And on my channel, you will find that I use language consistent with astrology, with tarot, with law of attraction, and intuitive guidance from my higher self and my guides. One of my favorite things to do is to tap into the energies of the planets. That's what I use for the material here gathered for the energies mastery, because there's so much to be gained from every energy that we experience with the different planetary alignments, that we can embody these experiences, learning how to use higher consciousness in order to navigate them, to use those skills for other experiences in our life. So it's all for the purpose of being able to manifest our dreams, to be able to become the creators of our own reality. Okay, so who has been experiencing this surge of, power with Pluto and Mars dance? All right, I have bing bing bing. So this surge is really centered around certainty of self, ownership of self, knowing who you are. And this can come across like as power struggles. It can come across as boom, like, Clash of the Titans and, fight till somebody taps out. It can be where just to the point where you get frustrated and you're like, you know what, I'm out of here. Forget this. I'm not going to have anything to do with it. And I'm moving on. It can have elements of drawing defined lines in the sand, very clear boundaries, especially in places where you are recognizing where you have given your power away, and maybe others have been taking advantage of you, and it's time to pull that energy in and be able to direct it in a way that's meaningful and purposeful for, again, manifesting the things that you desire in your life. And that's what it really takes, is being able to draw that energy in to be able to not be distracted so much, but really to come back into ourselves, to realign that energy, to move forward in a way that is beneficial. So it also could be a recognition. It could show up in a way that you're recognizing that you no longer need opinions outside of yourself. And really, this is that strong energy of Pluto in Aquarius. Aquarius is very much about your authenticity, being exactly who you are, because who you are is important, and the strength of who you are is important to the collective experience, and being able to be, the strong link in the chain, so that you're bringing what's purposeful and meaningful to you to the table, because that's how we expand in a way that's positive. That's how we create, by each of us creating our own utopian world, we benefit then the collective for that to be, more experiences for other people. And the way that the way that you help is by being the best version of yourself and being able to see the best version of other people. And if you are in judgment of others, then you're not seeing the best version of them, and you're distracting yourself from using your energy in order to see the best in yourself and move forward with that. Okay, so like I said, this is ultimately the role of Pluto, is to be able to help us understand, Pluto in Aquarius, understand more how to become ourselves, okay? And so, and it's fabulously paired with that ambition of Mars right now. So if you think about Mars, the element of fire, the element of activity, the element of moving forward, coupled with Aquarius, air, that can create a firestorm, and which can be very destructive. All right, but if you think about like the heat pushing those flames forward of the wind, the heat of the flames pushing the wind forward in order to take action. Okay, but then we have Pluto, and Pluto embodies the element of water. And if you bring water in as the example, or in tarot, it's the emotions, to be able to dilute that fire a little bit to create now steam. And steam has been, throughout the ages, has been used as, a significant energy source. Think about like the steam engines. There was a whole period of human history that steam was a strong element used in order to for expansion in the industrial age. Okay, so this is what we're really working with, is these three elements to be able to power ourselves up. And that water element reminds us to use the wisdom of our emotions to simmer things down just a little bit. So we can use that as to experience a new way of life springing forth from us and clearing out the old foliage. So if you think about that wildfire moving through the forest, as it burns everything down, new life can then can grow up from it. Okay, new life. Even animals that hadn't been there, or plants that hadn't necessarily been there in that area before, can now come in. So it really repurposes the area for something new. And this is where clarity comes in. This is how we can use what we're going to really learn about today, is how to use the fiery energy and even anger itself, which anger has been characterized as a negative emotion. And so, but if you're acting from anger, it's definitely, it can be destructive. But if you're using it wisely to create clarity in your body, then you're going to be able to power up and be able to use that as sort of rocket fuel. And with that sense of clarity, be able to then move forward in a meaningful way. One of my clients had a beautiful, she just exemplified this magnificently. And with her permission, I will share a little bit of what she experienced in this last week as like I said, a beautiful example of this, how we can use it. So she is a nurse, and she was up for a review. Everybody in the department was up for review. I guess a 6-month review, something to that effect. And the woman that was, or the boss, the manager that was giving her this review, was somebody who has praised her in numerous occasions and has been a champion for all of her efforts and the things that she has done in her job. And when she went in for the review, she was given a negative review, and she was spoken to very sternly and like in a very demeaning way. And she would, the things that the manager was bringing up weren't accurate, and she called her on that and said, these things aren't true. I don't accept this. And you could feel the frustration, the anger that anybody would be feeling in this situation. Well, the manager said, had let her know that maybe some of these things are exaggerated. Again, maybe some of these things have been exaggerated, but she was standing by, the manager was still standing by them and wouldn't listen to reason at that point. And so this wonderful nurse, my client, she was very angry. She was hurt. She was angry. She was frustrated. And she decided to no longer, speak on the situation. She agreed with what was happening. She asked some other members in the department, and they experiencing something so very familiar or very similar with this. And I think this is a really good point to talk about how the hierarchy of authority is beginning to break down, and whether those people who are in authority fully recognize this or like consciously, there's definitely a strong threat to the hierarchy of authority, because each of us are beginning to stand up and become our own authority of our life. So she was frustrated with the situation, and she went home, and she dwelled on it for just a little bit, and was coming to a different conclusion about a way to handle this. And instead of marching forward with taking action against this manager, she had thought about, okay, maybe instead, I've already been thinking about moving locations, because she's going to school and going to a different school, maybe going sooner, and just being done. Like I said, just like, forget you guys, I'm leaving, I'm out of here. She thought about that, which is excellent. So it brought her from one state to now a potential solution of how to handle this situation. But she sat with the energy of the anger, and she allowed it to be present in her body, and she was able to come to a point of clarity, and she realigned herself with the reason that she's there in the first place. And it's not to perform for this authority. It's not for accolades from the authority in any way, shape, or form. She's moving forward with things that are important to her, which is being available for her patients. So she had thought in that first solution that came up, she had thought, maybe I'll call out this next day because, for my next shift, because I am feeling resentful at this moment. And the way that we have typically or in the past gone about our lives is having that reaction and then using the circumstance as a reason or an excuse to continue to perpetuate feeling that way, and then acting from that place of that anger. But when we use higher consciousness in order to create our lives, we begin to see how we have been pre-programmed on how to react to situations, how we're supposed to feel, right? And what we're supposed to do with those feelings, and how appropriate it is to defend those feelings within ourselves. And like I said, if we're using higher states of consciousness, we can see that, which now opens the door for something different. So as she sat with that energy of that anger and she allowed herself to be present with it and accepted it fully, she began to experience the clarity, just like I spoke about in the forest fire, creating a clear space for something different. She aligned herself with why she was in this field in the first place. She went to her next shift, and when she got to her next shift, the department was very quiet. And there wasn't a lot going on, but another department, it's emergency room, okay, another department ended up getting someone rushed in. A little boy was rushed in, and she could hear all of the loudspeakers, all of the announcements taking place, and she had a strong feeling that she should go and see how the situation was going and if they needed additional help. So she goes over, and what she found was the doctor who was attending to this little boy who was seizing. I guess he had an infection in his knee that became septic. I apologize. I'm not a nurse. I don't know a lot of medical terms, and maybe that isn't just necessarily a medical term, but he had an infection that was taking over in his knee, and he was seizing. It was starting to clog up his airways or prevent him from being able to breathe. And the doctor who was attending, who is typically very alert, very sharp, very very capable and very educated and capable, for whatever reason was going on in her life, was feeling overwhelmed by this situation. So the nurse who felt called to be there at that moment was able to step in for that doctor and be able to assess the situation and be able to get the tracheotomy into his throat. And then they had equipment failure in this tracheotomy, and she was just feeling, she said it was almost like an out-of-body experience where she just felt the awareness of like what to do next, what to do here, what to do there, not to worry about that there's another option, and was able to get this little boy stabilized to the point that so that brain damage didn't occur in a time frame that brain damage didn't occur. She was able to get him stabilized and then be able to now, step back and let the attending doctor take over. The attending doctor was so appreciative and thankful for her ability to step in. Now, am I saying that you're going to be prepared for an emergency? Maybe. You could be, if that's important to you. But what this nurse did was she aligned herself with her purpose. Okay, and if you remember from our previous conversations about Prometheus and this Aquarian energy and aligning with our creations, that's where our responsibility lies, aligning with the things that are meaningful to us. So while this situation arises for her to be available in that emergency situation, it may not necessarily appear that way for you. And what it is saying is that you are available and able to have energy move through your body with clarity and presence for any situation, that's not what I meant to say there. I meant to say opportunity. For the opportunity that arises based on what's important to you. It was a beautiful example of how she was able to be present, be aligned with being in the right place at the right time. So the bigger picture here is being able to use that energy of anger, which we have often blocked ourselves from or try to push it away or have acted from that because we haven't known what to do with it. We now can see that we have the ability to use it to clear out space inside of our body and be able to do something different with that energy and how beneficial, in fact, it is. when you're using higher states of consciousness to be able to create your life, you begin to see how everything is working in your favor and on your behalf. Now, I have read the Bhagavad Gita, the Hindu text, okay? And I thought this was a really great place to be able to use one of the beautiful teachings and wisdom that came from this book. It was just absolutely a fascinating story. The main character or protagonist is Arjuna, and he's faced with a moral dilemma, and he is having to defend his throne. He is was the heir to the throne, and he's now has taken that position. And there are family members that want to dethrone him and take over. And he knows that their intentions for how to rule or how to run things from this position would not be in the best interest of the people. So now he's being forced into battle. And so he's in this moral dilemma of, do I defend my throne, or do I go into battle with people that I love and care about, potentially killing? It's battle, it's war. Go to war with these people that I care about. Think about that with Mars, right? I could go to war, but he stops and he thinks, and now Krishna comes to him, and Krishna is ascended master. He is a manifestation in human form with holding higher states of consciousness for the purpose of teaching Arjuna. And one of the things that he teaches him is that there is no such thing as death, okay? And that's one of the one of the perspectives that we're able to begin to understand as we use higher states of consciousness to understand life itself. But what I really wanted to talk about here was the three different human experiences. Okay, and so these are, without going into the terms used in the book, as I don't want to bore you, and for the sake of simplicity, we'll bring them down to essentially goodness. And I want to define goodness here as a win-win solution. Win-win-win solution, okay? And the next one being passion or activity, okay? And the third one being ignorance. Now, we need all three of these, because as we grow, we need to understand, in order to grow, we need to be able to see where we have blind spots, ignorance, okay? We need to see where there's an area that we are without light or without a new understanding in order to then be able to gain that understanding. We need passion. We need interest. Everything comes down to interest, because that is how you connect with your higher self, all right? Everything comes down to interest. Now, you must have interest and passion about, this is why you being passionate, being interested in your life would then, and you're moving forward in life, then give you the ability to then recognize the blind spot. Again, going back to interest and passion, being able to give you the drive to learn about a new understanding for the situation or something you need in your life, your creation. Okay, but then taking that element of passion to your higher self, to the higher knowledge, to the source, to the God spark within you, to the infinite intelligence, okay? So you're going to take this, and it's not as if infinite intelligence has all of the answers. No, it has all of the potentials. It has all the information that has been gathered up until this point, being able to bring it down into information that's very pertinent to the specifics in your life, specifics of your interest. Your higher self is always interested in that. Now, when you give yourself the space to be able to do this, to be able to take that question, once you identify the blind spot or something that you need to know, and you have enough interest and passion in order to move forward with this, then you can use that clarity to get information from your higher self, and it will feel like a win-win-win, almost miraculous, and it will answer more things than you had even expected. But if you are taken out and in a depressive state, or in a worried state, or in a stressful state, or in despondent from life, calloused from life, being obstinate and irritated with situations in your life about what is needing information, this blind spot, right? This point of ignorance, but it's not a bad thing, right? So where I need more information. So if you're feeling those lower emotions, you're going to be stuck in a spiral that continues to take you down. Basic law of attraction. If you're stuck in this energy, it's going to spiral you down. You're going to get more of that. Now, if you stay in just passion, if you stay in activity, you're going to be acting from that place without higher knowledge, okay? So essentially what it does when you just only stay and move for act, without the pause for higher or I guess fresh energy, fresh life force energy that gives you information, without allowing yourself to be able to receive that, you're going to find yourself in a tailspin. You're going to keep repeating patterns. You're going to keep it like the same thing over and over and over again. And in the Gita, they talk about the goodness or the win-win-win solution that comes from infinite intelligence, from the God self within, is the only energy that can actually move anything forward. So while all of those are important elements to creating our lives, the only one that's going to move anything forward is the positive energy. So being able to use all energies as they become available to us to learn the skill of being able to embody higher states of consciousness by being able to bring ourselves to a point of clarity is how you're going to move your creations forward. Okay, have you ever just felt like when you're maybe when you're writing out goals and you're like trying to push this energy forward of like making this happen, or you've seen and had an idea about something that you really want to experience in your life and you're trying to push it and make it happen, and it's not going to from that place. You're just going to keep spinning out around and around and around and around and not actually really manifesting much of anything new. You just keep experiencing the same things over and over again, maybe with different people, maybe slightly different situation, but it's the same thing, like Groundhog Day, over and over and over again. But the thing that you desire the most is still out of reach, right? So this is where we see it, how important it is to open ourselves up through meditation, through quieting, through being honest and available to everything that we're feeling without a judgment to it being negative and blocking. Because if we're blocking our emotions, if we're blocking things that we don't want to experience, we're also then blocking the ability to receive that higher knowledge, okay? Be able to receive that light. So blocking is never the answer. We must open ourselves up completely and be able to navigate based on what we prefer to feel, but being open to everything that we currently are feeling. And you will watch that begin to absorb into your body, begin to dissolve from a lower emotion into something higher, into something actionable that literally happens through you rather than you forcing things to happen, okay? And this is how your manifestations begin to come into your life. All right, so let's see here. So I think that this is really important to, in preparation for now, Mercury, one of my favorite planets to tap into is Mercury. It's the fastest moving planet. It's all about information. It's all about what do we need to know right now. It points us in the directions of like wisdom that we can gain from all the planetary alignments. And it's just it really magnificent messenger of what's available for us. Well, the sun is now in Pisces, and on February 23rd, maybe the day after you watch this video, maybe it's the day that this video posts, I'm not exactly sure, but February 23rd, Mercury moves into Pisces. Now, Pisces is the energy or the zodiac sign of awareness, of spirit, of creation, of imagination, okay? So if we're able to now harness the energy of understanding what anger or that strong emotion in our bodies is able to now do for us, it aligns us perfectly with being able to receive the information that's available in this Piscean energy and be able to mold that energy from our emotions. So another aspect or another element to Mercury as it moves into Pisces is that Mercury doesn't do exactly as well as it could in Pisces because, like I said, it wants facts, it wants information, it wants to know what's going on. And Pisces is water. Okay, Pisces is emotion. So what Mercury is pointing us to is essentially the moon card. Okay, the moon card in tarot, and this is I love this card so much because this card talks about it. It's essentially been dubbed as the chaos card. Okay, and chaos is what happens here when we don't understand how to use the energy in our body to be able to create clarity, or maybe it's an exaggerated or a hyped sense of energy in our body. This card talks about being able to see with your mind's eye what you'd like to manifest, but it's not fully come into manifestation yet, and it can create that sense of frustration inside of our bodies. All right, but being able to be present with that frustration and know that it's in the works, and it's in the process of being able to come into physical manifestation, and being able to really understand that frustration and anger are not negative, working against your emotions. They're emotions that need to be honored and appreciated and embodied to be able to then fuel you when the time comes for that opportunity or that manifestation to arise, for you to be active with this manifestation. All right, so the action here is to be able to tap into our heart space. Okay, so so Mercury is pointing to the moon. The moon is water, and heart space energy is what we want to really activate here after we've created that clarity to be able to receive. We want to be able to ask through clarity what it is that we need or want, maybe to understand that point of lack, or that point of like the blind spot that I was talking about, the blind spot there. So we want to be able to have the clarity to be able to ask through our heart space, to then be able to receive the answer through our heart space. Again, another water card, Pisces card. This is all about this action. Now, knights in the tarot are action cards, but the only action that I see in this card is the asking and the receiving, through a clear emotional body, through the joy and happiness that is available in our heart space. It's a sense of peace. It's a sense of abundance there. There's a sense of all things possible when you work through your heart space. And so one of the things that I like to imagine when I'm working with my heart space is an enormous, maybe I don't know if it's a cavern or if it's a hole that opens up into complete darkness, the space of all potentials through my heart space. Okay, I open this up, and then I imagine that all around this giant hole here is like cliffs that have waterfall, massive waterfall is coming down. And I imagine that it goes all the way down into all of my humanness and all of the things that I have been maybe using to block, energies that have been blocking my heart space. And I imagine that it goes down underneath everything from my own human perspective that I have put in my heart space to create that sense of callousness, or that sense of despondency, that sense of resentment, those kind of things that lodge into our heart space that block us from being able to communicate with source energy through our heart space. Okay, so I like to imagine, and I just ask my higher self to simply have all of that water go down underneath everything that may be blocking my heart space and bring it up, and so that it can clear it out. And I just imagine that water is just coming in and clearing out and coming in and clearing out and coming in until I feel a sense of refreshment in my heart space, and I can see what now appears to be a wellspring of water just pouring out. Now, that wellspring, if you imagine your heart chakra being open in your back also, not just your front, but in your back also, and that is connected to this huge opening that is a direct connection or a direct cord to source energy. All right, so I'm opening up, or I'm clearing out with the water anything that may be blocking that connection, and I'm asking that source energy to now come through, and I'm beginning to see a wellspring of water begin to like I said, refreshing, replenishing, and in a sense of like, again, peace, total peace inside of my body, to be able to have and do and be anything that is important to me. Which brings us to the Ace of Cups, this wellspring of water. This card talks about a total repurposement of your body in a new opportunity never experienced before. And if you remember, in the beginning, I was talking about new opportunities coming your way and being available to be able to act from a place of clarity when those opportunities come. So aces are all about brand new opportunities, something you've never experienced before. Okay. And this is coming from a new refreshed place of your emotional body. So it clears out your entire emotional body. It taps you into that source energy, and from using your heart space. So you're just imagining your energy. Now that you've gotten this clarity, you're imagining you're asking through your heart space for an answer to a question, or to ask for what it is that you desire, and then imagining that being able to come back without your brain trying to figure it out. Just imagine that answer is coming in, and you've got to kind of let go of your humanness trying to make it happen in order to allow it to happen. And if it doesn't happen in that moment, that's okay, because the answer will come. We've really got to learn how to let go of our expectation of how the answers are going to come, and know that if I've asked freely through my heart space with clarity, that answer is going to, that solution, that opportunity, maybe it's the manifested version of an intangible experience, what it is that I'm desiring, it will be answered. So everything comes down to your ability to align with your interests. The huge opportunity available now with this Pluto in Aquarius that is really asking us to unmask, because if you think about Pluto being the ruler of the underground, what's unseen, again, also this Piscean energy, what's unseen, right, from our human perspective, that Pluto energy being able to get underneath, in Greek mythology, it's Hades, the ruler of the underworld. Getting underneath there within our authenticity, that Aquarian energy, and being able to unmask inauthenticity. We're unmasking. We're now able to feel ourselves stand up and be able to own who we are in a very clear way, and be able to take action on the things that are important. Again, all going back to interest, because if you're not interested, you're not going to get the answers. If you're not interested, you're not going to be able to be aligned with your higher self. So mastering the ability to navigate lower emotions by simply feeling them, not judging them the way that we had before, but using those lower emotions as we let ourselves feel them, to be able to help us gain wisdom for what's on the other side of it. We don't get lost in them. We don't push them away. We don't judge those lower emotions. We use them as our benefit, as stepping stones to our growth. Okay, so we're really living in such a miraculous and powerful time. And I have said in other videos that we're living in a time where we're able to now manifest and experience ourselves through our manifested dreams. If you are feeling frustration or anger, stay with that emotion until it becomes something higher. You can even ask, what's the opposite of frustration? Clarity. And just say, clarity is what I prefer. Clarity is my preference, and this is what I choose. Meanwhile, being present with this until that clarity is able to come in. Okay, so and these are skills that we're able to use moving forward. We're never just, it's not about getting through this dance with Pluto and Mars right now. The North Node for all of 2024 is in Aries, which the ruling planet is Mars. That fire energy is supporting us in unspeakable ways, through fierce independence to be exactly who we are. And it's not the last time we're going to feel this power struggle in our lives. It's not the last time that we're going to feel anger in our lives. But when we understand how to use these things, we can now take this opportunity to understand how to build a skill out of it, using our higher states, using higher consciousness, which is source perspective, right? It's the perspective that source has. We now have this beautiful chance to grow that skill within ourselves to be able to use for future experiences. And now, with this beautiful Piscean energy, be able to be at a state of peace, be in a state of harmony with the awareness of who we actually are, to be able to use that clarity and be able to affirmly know that we have the ability to manifest by aligning to the pure, positive energy, the inspirations from the source within us as they come, without trying to force it, to be an active participant in the manifestations and experiencing our dreams becoming our reality, whatever that dream is for you. And there are no dreams that are off the table. There are no dreams off the table. So I hope that you found that very helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment. If you would like to share what you're experiencing right now, feel free to comment. I encourage you to like this video if you found resonance with it, to subscribe if you would like to hear more, and I look forward to seeing you in next week's episode of 2024 Ascension Energies Mastery. Happy manifesting.